US calls for talks between Mnangagwa and Chamisa, rallies SADC to solve Zimbabwe's worsening crisis. The US is rallying the Southern African Development Community, the SADC, to play a more assertive role in helping to solve the deepening crisis in Zimbabwe. The US is also urging Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa to open dialogue with the opposition. Speaking for the first time since the ruling ZANU-PF called him a thug, US Ambassador to Harare, Brian A. Nichols, told Times Live that South Africa was leading by example and could achieve success in bringing about change in its neighboring country. This is an opportunity for the institution, the SADC, to stand up to the excesses that are taking place here in terms of human rights abuses. And this is an opportunity for SADC to promote a more prosperous region, he said. Zimbabwe says it is not on the agenda of 4-day SADC summit, which starts on Friday, because there is no crisis in the country. The step South Africa has taken in sending its special envoys here is very positive. The statement from the AU was a very positive step. All those people of goodwill will come together to support Zimbabwe at this difficult moment. Nichols said Zimbabwe had a three-pronged crisis: healthcare, food security, and political turmoil. There is widespread concern about where Zimbabwe is heading, and people who are legitimate friends of Zimbabwe are deeply worried, he said. He said, since 2018, after the disputed general elections that handed a narrow win to Mnangagwa, there had been high-level meetings between him and American officials, but what was discussed had not been implemented by Harare. We have had a couple of high-level meetings with President Mnangagwa. From Washington, Secretary of State for African Affairs Thabo Mbeki has met with President Mnangagwa twice. Once on the margins of the UN General Assembly in 2018, and then last year at the African CEO Summit in Maputo. At that time, we talked about our desire to have a stronger relationship. But that depended on this government pursuing strong and irreversible reforms. And unfortunately, we are waiting for many of those reforms still to take place, he said. The ambassador said some of the concerns are shared mutually with some senior officials in government who believe the country's future depends on enacting broad reforms around freedom of expression, rule of law, strong institutions, anti-corruption, and leveling the political playing field. Nichols is not alone in calling for dialogue between Mnangagwa and MDC Alliance leader Nelson Chamisa. Kina Zivu, a former ZANU-PF legislator, was expelled from the party last month for making the same call. Last week, former Reserve Bank Governor Gideon Gono also suggested dialogue between opposing parties. But instead of having South Africa play the mediation role, he suggested Rwanda's Paul Kagame for the task. Gono argued that because of his military background, Kagame could do a better job. Gono suggested that Zimbabwe should have a transitional authority while the country works on a framework for reform before elections are brought back. Nichols said he believed this would work if all stakeholders acted in good faith. That is something that we have supported for the last couple of years. Several civic society organizations are advocating for that solution. How that dialogue progresses and what agreements come out of it will depend on the people of Zimbabwe. It will depend on all the political, economic, and social actors and religious communities coming together and having a conversation centered around how we will deal with the challenges of the economic crisis. How do we deal with corruption as well as healthcare issues, and how do we come up with the living wage, he said. Despite Harare denying that there is a crisis in the country, there has been an increased onslaught on opposition political activists. NDC Alliance legislator Job Scala was on Friday arrested and charged with inciting public violence by backing the July 31 protests. He joins journalist Hopo Chingono and Transform Zimbabwe leader Jacob Ngarivume, who were denied bail. Zimbabwe's ruling ZANU-PF party last month called Nichols a thug and accused him of funding the opposition ahead of the planned anti-government protests that authorities said were meant to overthrow the government.